Over the last 10 years, we've transacted over 1,000 properties and added 180 properties to our boring vanilla buy-to-let portfolio. And here are the 3 things that you need to do before you even start investing. So this is kind of a weird thing to start with for me, because obviously I'm a big property investor and a huge advocate for investing as a whole, but I do want to set the tone correctly. And it's a bit weird for me to say this, but as an educator, a lot of us are to blame. I think there's a lot of property educators and wealth educators that are ultimately full of shit, if I'm honest, with the get rich quick mentality, quit your job in 30 days. And I really try to steer away from that. It's almost like they want to sell a dream and maybe deliver the reality. I don't know about the other side. Whereas I like to sell the reality and deliver the reality. Now, it doesn't make me better or worse as an educator, but it's really important to have an understanding and a deep integrity around the reality of investing, and get rich quick is just not a part of it. If you're trying to get rich quickly, all you're going to do is lose money and give your money to somebody else. Now, can it make you rich? Yes, absolutely. I started 10 years ago with £33,000 in debt. Fast forward to last year was our biggest year yet with 10.8 million in income. Now, that's not just from buy-to-let properties, it's from a consortium of my property businesses. But it's so important that you go into this with the right mindset and understanding that with time, you will make more money, and compound interest is definitely your friend. So what do I mean by long term? Well, let's jump into my journey just briefly to give you a little bit of an idea of timescale. So my real journey actually began with rent-to-rents and deal packaging, and I ended up selling these rent-to-rents on as a deal packager. The reason I got into rent-to-rents, and I'll assume you don't have a clue what that is I rented a property as a whole, and then I rented out the room. So I was renting to rent, rent-to-rent, or lease to let. They've got different names for it. And I really liked that because I was like, low money in, this is really good, I get cash flow. What they didn't tell me is the level of compliance that come with HMOs, and of course having 5 tenants to deal with per property is kind of a struggle. I didn't like the late night phone calls about bloody light that's gone out, literally, but sometimes literally. And so I packaged them on, and I actually made more money from packaging them on from holding the rent-to-rents. So as I said, I started with very limited funds. In fact, it was 33,000 in debt when I started from personal loans, credit cards, etc. And it took me around 5 years to go from having no money or less than no money to becoming a net worth millionaire. Is that get rich quick? I think that's pretty bloody quick. I don't think it's get rich quick like trying to make it a load. What you don't know though is in the first year, I barely made any money. In fact, 100% of any profits got reinvested. So I barely paid myself at all that year. The next year, I was making more money from a business, but as an individual, I paid myself £1,000 a month. So even though I started real developing as an adult, I guess, and all the things that come from that, I rented a room somewhere, ironically, in one of my rent-to-rents. And it's only then that my wealth really started compounding up. Now, 5 years isn't get rich quick, but I think it's pretty bloody solid. Now, obviously, I don't know how you feel when I say 5 years, but I look at it this way. Hopefully, you're still with us in 5 years. And so your financial future can really be different. Or maybe you're happy with that, maybe you're not happy, maybe you want a choice. So in 5 years' time, you really want to be in a very different situation so you can make different decisions on that. So when I talk about the long-term mindset, I'm actually thinking longer than 5 years, and this is where you really start reaping the benefits. So in fact, here's an interesting one. In that first 5 years, I had less than 20 properties to my name. Fast forward the next 5 years, we've got around 180 in the portfolio, which is absolutely insane, all right? So here's some rules that you can go by. Number 1, master the long-term mindset. So look, the older you are, the harder this one is to accept, all right? But genuinely my mindset is if you've got 5 years in you, then you still got time to turn it around. And honestly, this baffles me when people go, am I too old to get in property? It's like, look, have you got 5 years in you? If yes, brilliant. I went from minus 33 grand to a millionaire in that 5 years. Why can't you do the same? If you don't have 5 years in you, you're probably not watching this right now, all right? Just chill out for the last remaining years. But the longer you've got, the better you've got. And honestly, I hear it, am I too old and am I too young? Oh my God, the blessing of being an 18, a 16, a 14-year-old watching this, it's gonna blow your mind how much this compounds up. We go from 0 to millionaire to decamillionaire in just a decade. You can do this too. So when I talk about the long-term mindset, I'm not really thinking about 5 years. I'm thinking 10, 15, 20, And this will blow your mind. People can't really conceptualize how compounding works. They go, yeah, but it can't keep happening. Yes, it can. Property in general doubles every 10 to 15 years. And the amount of shit I get from that, yes, that's unrealistic though. What about the last 5 years? What about the last 10 years? Yes, in the last 10 years, it has done that too. The longer you are invested, the more money you will make. So master that long-term mindset. Let me give you an example of this. This coming up on the screen right now is a property that I purchased in 2017. Are you ready for this? For 52,000. So that's in 2017, and now it's worth around 100, and we're putting a bit of work into it, pushing it up to 130,000 pounds. That is a 92% increase in price since 2017. And over the years, by the way, this has been tenanted, bringing an income. And this is just one example of buying and holding a property in the right area. And you might think the bricks and mortar is the really valuable thing. It's not really top secret for you. It's the land. It's the location. They're not building more land, if you haven't noticed, right? Not in England anyway. And it's where that location comes in. Location, location, location. You get the right land, you get a freehold property, and as you can see, this capital appreciation, this capital growth is absolutely huge. The longer you're in the market, the more you'll make. Don't try and time the market, it's time in the market. Number 2, establish your goals. So when you've mastered the art of the investor mindset, which is basically patience and perseverance, now you need to start understanding your why. So now you've got your why, you really want to break this down into what we call a metric heavy goal. So think of it like KPIs, all right, that you're given at work, your key performance indicator. So hopefully your work gives you those KPIs that enable you to see if you're even doing a good job or not. And this is the same as investment. You need to know what your metrics are. What does success look like for you? It's how you think about property and the investment. And you need to decide the reason that you're investing in the first place. So for me, a lot of people get into property and think they're going to quit their job in 6 months. And for some people, that's achievable if you've got hundreds of thousands of pounds. For most of us, actually buying 1 or 2 properties, it's more about becoming a millionaire. Here's a fun fact for you. You will sooner become a net worth millionaire in property than you will make 10 grand a month. I'm going to say that again. You will become a net worth millionaire in property by owning property before you even make your first £10,000 month. And I find that really powerful, actually. So let me just give an example of this. Let's say your investment goal could be, I want to take home 3K a month. All right, and I want it to come from investment property. Great. The second goal could be that once I've achieved that, I want to move down to 3 days a week or 4 days a week working. And these goals are unique to you. I can't tell you what they should be. I can coach you to understand what it is. But what I can tell you is it's really important to establish this before you start your investment journey. How do you actually decide this goal? Well, it's easier said than done when it comes to deciding what your investment goal is going to be. So I like giving a really simple framework that you can follow. So start with your why. Ask yourself, why am I investing in the first place? Is it passive income? Is it long-term wealth? Is it retirement, financial freedom? Do I want to leave a legacy for my kids? Then you want to decide on the time frame. So short time frame is going to be 1 to 5 years, which might be saving for a house, a deposit. Medium term might be 5 to 10 years, i.e. building the portfolio. And long term, 10 years plus, might be generational wealth and retirement. Notice those time frames, by the way. 5 to 10 years is a medium time frame. It's not even a long time frame. Then you're going to work out your financial needs around this. So how much money do I need? What income? What total wealth? So it could be I want £3,000 a month and a net worth of £1 million by the age 50. Then what we're going to do is match the strategy to the goal. So for example, if you need monthly cash flow, it might be I'm doing some buy-to-lets or maybe HMOs if you're a little bit more advanced. If you want long-term growth, then buy-to-lets are definitely going to be for you because they get the most capital appreciation. Maybe if you want hands-free, then you're not going to be doing these complex. You want to outsource a lot to a portfolio building service or a fund. The reality is you might be listening to a lot of this going, well, I'm not really sure about this. I've got a pot of money. I know I want to invest, but I'm just not sure where to go. If that is you, put grow in the comments. What we're going to do is I'm going to send you a link and you can just book in a free consultation call. And yes, by the way, the idea of this call is to work out if we can work together and even help you. So we specialize at Aspire Portfolio in helping people just like you build profitable portfolios, all right? So put grow in the comments. I'll send you a link. You can book in a completely free consultation where I'll help you understand where you're at and where you want to get to, and if we can even help you build that portfolio. Now, we only take calls with people that have got the money to invest. You need a minimum of £50,000 to start building your portfolio. All of this, by the way, is going to be around your resources. So your resources are your time, your knowledge, and the money. Like if you have, I'm a real property expert, I've got loads of time to implement this, and I've got a small amount of money, then building a buy-to-let portfolio is not going to be for you. Whereas most investors that I work with, they've got a great job or business or inheritance. They've got enough knowledge to know that property makes you money in a really safe and reliable way, but they don't have a lot of time. They're busy doing the thing that makes the money in the first place. And so it makes sense for them to outsource to us at Spy Portfolio, building their portfolio. But it has to be realistic to you. You need to have a goal that actually matches your starting point, which is going to be your funds, your knowledge, and your time to invest. Finally, and this is the third really big thing, risk versus reward. Any form of investing is risky, all right? Honestly, having money in the bank nowadays is a bit more risky than it was once perceived. But luckily, property in the UK has been around for some time. It's been around since the Doomsday Book in 1086. So it's almost 1,000 years of property and land investment. So I'm not saying the past guarantees the safety of the future, but 1,000 years, I think that's a decent amount of data. So now that we've got the right knowledge, and we understand it's one of the safest forms of investing, it's where do we want to go? Now, I'll just give you some tips around this, but one strategy that I'm personally a really big fan of is boring vanilla buy-to-lets. And people seem really shocked at that. If you think my businesses bring in hundreds of thousands of profit every single month, not quite millions of profits every month, but I've got high time because I can hire, I can develop people and train them out, and I've got a load of money, and I'd like to think I'm a pretty decent expert in this, and yet I'm still going for boring vanilla buy-to-lets because every single one of you should be doing that. I'll give you a straight tip. The easy way at the beginning is, do you have your foundations? And everyone's portfolio foundations should be 5 boring vanilla buy-to-lets. If you don't have them, get them first, then look at the more exciting opportunities, which I'm not sure exciting and investment should ever really go in the same conversation, but there you go. I'm not investing to impress people. I'm not investing to have the glitz and glam serviced accommodation. I'm investing to make money. And we've done a long-term study now, and we do this over and over, looking at service accommodation versus HMO versus buy-to-lets, just 3 different examples. And yes, HMOs do net slightly more than buy-to-lets, and service accommodation do net more than HMOs. However, it is not without the challenges, all right? The further you go up there, so if buy-to-let to HMOs to service accommodation, it is way higher risk, way more time intensive. And that doesn't make it bad, by the way. I also have HMOs and service accommodation, but you need to get it right. Service accommodation, for example, is so far from hands-free, it is unreal. Buy-to-lets are simple. You're renting a property to an individual, couple or family, and they're part of the same household. Typically, they're going to stay for 3 or 4 years, and I like that. I'm a big believer in my active income, my job, my business, making my money, and my passive remaining passive. And that's why I've built up a portfolio of over 180 of these now and help people like you do the same. We've done over 1,000 of these over the last 10 years. Now, you need to know where your risk is. All right, if you're watching this going, well, I'm watching this YouTube video because I'm a beginner, then I'm going to assume if you've watched this far, you don't have your 5 buy-to-lets. And if you don't, stop watching all of the other videos around lease options, commercial conversions, all of the stuff that sounds really cool, and get your first 5 boring vanilla buy-to-lets, and then look at that. And by the way, if you don't have the time or knowledge, put grow in the comments. I'll help you build your portfolio. So how do you know what your risk appetite actually is? Well, it can be pretty hard to understand this because risk is in every form of investment. So let me give you a bit of a framework to look at this. First of all, look at your time horizon. As I said, short term, 1 to 3 years, long term, 10-year plus. So if you've got short-term goals, you likely are going to be willing to take stronger risks in there. The shorter your time frame, if you genuinely want to make proper money, then typically it's going to be through higher risk strategy. I don't like this. I'm not a fan at all. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but honestly, after being in the game for 10 years, the amount of people that have made big money and then lost it all, people doing commercial conversions, service accommodation, developments, all of that, that looked all really good on social media, and now they're absolutely kaput. They've lost absolutely everything, and I'm sure you've heard some of the stories out there. In general, I don't like trying to get rich quick. I think it's an incredibly stupid way of building wealth. Now, theoretically, when you're looking at long-term investment, you can take higher risk. You can tolerate the higher risk because you've got time to recover from the dips. But I really like Warren Buffett's approach on this, where he says, rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. And by the way, this is coming from somebody that has lost over £2 million, this is me, over £2 million through getting greedy and trying to make money quickly. Every time I've stepped outside of my rules, it has fucked me in ways you do not even understand. So seriously, be patient. Getting rich is really not particularly difficult. It's quite simple, in fact. The bit that's hard is having patience, and especially with social media where you see the Lamborghinis and everyone doing their thing. I promise you, almost every single person that I know that has done that to an aggressive level has either lost huge amounts of money and they've just about got through, or in fact, they're going through bankruptcy at the time of filming this video. So think about your safety cushion. Do you have savings or emergency funds? Great, you could possibly take on some more risk. If not, you need to stay safer. You need to assess your knowledge and your experience. The more you understand as an investment, the less risky it feels. Don't be delusional though. I'd rather have no knowledge than some knowledge. Like, having a bit of knowledge is really dangerous, all right? It's like that naivety level. You need to make sure you actually have true understanding. And the irony is the more that you know in property, the more you realize you don't know. You know? So if you're new, start smaller, safer until you build your confidence. And finally, measure your emotional comfort. So imagine your investment drops 20% overnight. How would you react to it? Would you stay calm? Would you hold? And your gut reaction is a really strong indicator of your true risk appetite. Low risk, smaller, medium risk, balanced way of growth. And so you might do some buy-to-lets and HMOs once you've got your first 5 boring vanilla buy-to-lets. And then if you're high risk, which is basically, have you got your financial fortress? Your financial fortress is, doesn't really matter what happens outside of that. I've got my fortress, I've got my moat around it, it's bringing my money, it's boring, it's low returns, low risk, and then you can afford to take those risks. So you need to decide where you're at. Majority of people that are going to be watching this are towards the beginning of their journey. And if that's you, and you've got 50K or more, and you're ready to get that foundation, your first 5 boring vanilla buy-to-lets, let me show you how we can achieve it together. You keep 100% ownership. I do all of the work building your portfolio. Put grow in the comments. So when you focus on this long-term wealth and you're clear on your investment goals and your appetite to risk, you've now laid the foundations for your property portfolio. And it's essentially like developing out a business plan. And at this stage, you then need to decide if you're going to be hands-free or hands-on. And that's really the final decision. And if you need to be hands-on, make sure you're watching stuff like this, subscribe to this YouTube channel, watch as many videos as you can, because the longer you stay with us, the more educated you are and you'll make better decisions. If you want to be hands-free, sure, watch some of the videos, but really you want to have a chat with either my team or somebody else, by the way, to help you build that portfolio. And if you're going down the hands-free route, as I said, you really need to buy into the process. We've done over 1,000 of these right now, and I'd love to help you too. You know what to do. Grow in the comments. I'll send you a link and let's have a chat. When you know these 3 things, you are better prepared to go in. And the reality is, and the sad thing is, these are the videos that people need to see, but maybe it's not the things that people want to see. And this is the reality to building a long-term successful portfolio. So if you did get value from this and you know somebody that you think would get value, make sure to share this video link with them. Make sure they're educating themselves before they end up losing money by getting it wrong. I hope this has been helpful. Hit the like button as it has. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.